On December 29, 2024, a routine international flight arriving in South Korea turned into one of the most shocking aviation disasters in recent memory. Jeju Air Flight 2216, carrying 175 passengers and 6 crew members, crashed while attempting to land at Muan International Airport. While bird strikes are a known aviation hazard, the circumstances surrounding this event, particularly the failure of critical recording devices just before the crash, presented investigators with unique and troubling challenges. This is the story of Jeju Air Flight 2216, a disaster that forces us to re-examine airport safety procedures and the reliability of essential aircraft systems. Flight 2216 was operated by a Boeing 737-800 aircraft, registered as Hotel Lima HL8088. This aircraft is equipped with 2 CFM International CFM56-7B turbofan engines. The specific Jeju Air aircraft was manufactured in 2009, making it 15 years old at the time of the incident, a standard operational age for this aircraft type. Throughout its service life, HL8088 underwent all mandated maintenance checks and inspections according to manufacturer specifications and international aviation regulations. Flight 2216 was performing a scheduled international passenger service, originating from Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi Airport, Thailand, with the destination set as Muan International Airport in southwestern South Korea. This route connects the two countries and is often used by tourists and nationals. The flight duration is typically around 4.5 hours. On December 29, 2024, the flight departed Bangkok carrying 175 passengers and 6 crew members, totaling 181 people on board. The passenger load was near capacity. The majority of passengers were South Korean citizens returning home after time spent in Thailand. As Flight 2216 approached its destination, Muan International Airport, the reported weather conditions were generally favorable for landing. Observations indicated mostly sunny skies, a light surface wind which would not pose significant difficulty for landing, and a temperature of approximately 2 degrees Celsius. Importantly, the runway surface was reported as dry. These conditions were considered routine for the time of year and location, and did not suggest any immediate weather hazards for the final approach and landing phase of the flight. As the aircraft approached Muan International Airport on the morning of December 29th, it began its descent. At approximately 8:54 a.m. Korea Standard Time, the flight crew contacted Muan Tower and received clearance for a visual approach to the runway. At 8:57 KST, Air Traffic Control issued a standard advisory warning to the flight crew. Caution bird activity, indicating birds had been observed near the airport environment. At 8:58 KST, cockpit conversation reportedly indicated the pilots acknowledged seeing birds below the aircraft. Just over 40 seconds later, the flight crew transmitted an urgent Mayday call.
Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Bird strike, bird strike.
Simultaneously, they initiated a go-around procedure, aborting the landing attempt to the south of the runway and applying power to climb away. Critically, investigators later discovered that both the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder had stopped recording 4 minutes before the aircraft crashed, approximately 6 seconds before the Mayday call. The last recorded data showed the aircraft climbing through approximately 500 feet. This loss of data severely hampered the direct understanding of the final, crucial minutes. Following the go-around, the aircraft's flight path became erratic based on radar data and ATC communications. The crew appeared to be struggling with the aircraft, potentially due to engine damage or related system failures. They initially maneuvered as if attempting to return for another approach, rapidly changing plans. At approximately 9 a.m. KST, the crew requested to land from the north of the runway. Air Traffic Control approved this request. As the aircraft lined up for the approach from the north of the runway at around 9:02 a.m., Witness videos captured a critical issue. The landing gear was not extended. The aircraft was configured for a gear up or belly landing. Recognizing the severity of the situation unfolding during the emergency approach, the flight crew would have instructed the cabin crew to prepare passengers for an emergency landing, including adopting the brace position. With likely severe thrust degradation caused by the bird strike and potential hydraulic failures affecting the deployment of the landing gear and flaps, Flight 2216 attempted an emergency landing. Faced with limited engine power, compromised systems, and minimal time for troubleshooting, the crew had to execute a gear-up landing under extremely challenging circumstances. The Boeing 737-800 touched down without its landing gear extended at approximately 9:03 a.m. KST. Critically, the touchdown occurred far down the runway, estimated between 900 and 1,200 meters beyond the runway threshold, leaving significantly insufficient remaining distance for a full stop. Under normal conditions, a landing rollout would require careful energy management, but in this case, the lack of functional gear and high touchdown speed made effective deceleration virtually impossible. On impact with the runway surface, the aircraft began sliding uncontrollably on its fuselage belly, and engine nacelles. High friction contact with the concrete surface produced a shower of sparks and debris. The pilots likely attempted to deploy thrust reversers to aid in slowing the aircraft, but the mechanical damage from the earlier bird strikes and system malfunctions rendered those efforts largely ineffective. The aircraft continued to skid down the runway at high speed, unable to decelerate adequately. It overran the end of runway by approximately 250 meters. In its uncontrolled slide, the aircraft struck multiple approach light structures before violently colliding with a solid concrete block housing instrument landing system components. The high-energy impact caused the fuselage to break apart, and the force triggered an intense fireball that engulfed the front and center sections of the airframe almost immediately. The structural disintegration was severe. The tail section of the Boeing 737-800 separated relatively intact from the rest of the fuselage, while the forward and center fuselage portions were destroyed, both by the force of the collision and the subsequent intense fire. Despite the catastrophic nature of the crash, there were remarkable survivors. 2 cabin crew members, positioned in the rear of the aircraft, survived the impact. They were located in the detached tail section and were rescued with injuries. Tragically, all 175 passengers and the remaining 4 crew members, including both pilots, perished in the accident, resulting in a total of 179 fatalities. Emergency response units arrived on the scene within minutes. However, the severity of the impact, combined with the rapidly expanding fire, limited rescue efforts primarily to the tail section. Most of the fuselage was consumed by flames before additional rescue attempts could be made. The Korean Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board, ARAIB, immediately launched an investigation, supported by technical advisors from Boeing, CFM International, the engine manufacturer, the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and France's BEA. From the beginning, investigators focused on the sequence, starting with the reported bird strike on final approach, which prompted the subsequent go-round attempt. The failure of both flight recorders just before the Mayday call presented a major challenge, forcing reliance on ATC data, radar tracks, wreckage analysis, and witness information. Both the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder were recovered, but confirmed to have stopped recording prematurely. The data before the stoppage provided vital clues about the state of the aircraft leading into the emergency. Initial examination of the recovered engines revealed significant evidence of bird ingestion in both engine cores. Samples were sent for laboratory analysis, maintenance records were reviewed and showed standard compliance. Fuel samples were tested and found uncontaminated. The investigation focused on the common factor affecting both engines, the reported bird strike. 3 weeks into the investigation, laboratory analysis confirmed the ingested material contained avian DNA, specifically from Baikal teals, a species known to migrate in large, dense flocks in the region. Further examination revealed characteristic damage to fan blades and internal components consistent with multiple bird ingestions into both engines at high power settings. Modern commercial jet engines are built to withstand individual bird strikes, but they are not designed to survive the ingestion of a large number of birds at once, especially not at high power settings during critical flight phases. Analysis of engine debris revealed biological remains consistent with Baikal teals, a migratory bird species known to travel in extremely large, dense flocks during the winter season. The timing and location of the encounter matched known migratory patterns. Additionally, radar data showed dense biological echoes in the area at the time of the incident, further corroborating the bird strike theory. There was no evidence to support any hypothesis involving a frozen particulate cloud generated by another aircraft. No preceding aircraft operating nearby matched the conditions necessary to create such a phenomenon, and no signs of ice or foreign object debris were found either in the engines or on the airframe. In conclusion, the devastating bird strike, occurring at a vulnerable moment during high-thrust operations, caused rapid dual-engine failure, leading to an unrecoverable loss of control. The severity and suddenness of the event left the flight crew with no viable options to save the aircraft, despite their best efforts. Following the Jeju Air accident, aviation authorities reinforced the importance of robust bird strike mitigation strategies, especially at airports near migratory routes, prompting reviews of ICAO wildlife management standards. Airports continue efforts to improve bird detection and deterrence using techniques like radar and habitat control, though eliminating the risk entirely remains difficult, requiring layered defenses. The simultaneous failure of the vital CVR and FDR flight recorders before impact spurred serious international review of recorder system design, focusing on power supply redundancy and overall survivability standards. The loss of crucial data underscored the need to prevent such gaps, which severely hinder accident investigations and understanding causation. Engine manufacturers continuously work to improve engine tolerance to foreign object damage, like bird strikes. However, certification primarily covers specific scenarios, specifically single large birds, and ingesting massive dense flocks, as likely occurred here, with Baikal teals impacting both engines at high power, remains an extreme condition beyond current standards due to complex engineering trade-offs. Pilot training programs also incorporate lessons from such incidents. Emphasis remains on handling complex emergencies like dual-engine failures through realistic simulator training. Crew resource management principles for effective communication and decision-making under stress are critical. Managing go-around procedures during emergencies, a high workload phase, is also a key focus. The crash significantly intensified global focus on runway and safety areas, and the necessity of frangible breakaway structures near runways. The collision with the solid concrete ILS structure clearly demonstrated the catastrophic consequences of non-frangible obstacles during runway excursions, adding urgency to airport infrastructure upgrades based on ICAO recommendations to ensure obstacles break away easily. For the families of the 179 victims of Jeju Air Flight 2216, these safety reviews offer small consolation. A memorial near the Muan crash site commemorates those lost and acknowledges the 2 survivors, whose experiences contribute to the safety process. The Jeju Air accident tragically highlights the persistent hazard of bird strikes and the critical importance of robust aircraft systems and airport safety infrastructure. Every accident, however tragic, ultimately contributes to making the skies safer for everyone. If you found this analysis informative, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell to stay updated on our future aviation investigations. Thanks for watching.